All right. Hello, hello. Happy Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on where you are in the world. And today we're going to be talking about why we get stuck in pain or why we get stuck in spiritual bypassing and what it really means in plain English, in plain normal words that humans use, that we are living in a matrix and what does it really mean to wake up. Okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about. Why we get stuck in pain or in spiritual bypassing, and what it means that we live in a matrix, and what it means to actually wake up from that matrix into real reality. So, this is a subject that's super, super duper close to my heart because I have been a spiritual or a sensitive or whatever you want to call it, intuitive person my entire life. And uh, having worked in this field of spirituality essentially my entire life, because again, I was, I was always this way, and get talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and learning their stories and learning about people's pain and essentially doing a deep dive into the psychology of humans by being myself and just really dedicating myself to learning about people's pain and why we're in pain and what we can do to fix it. I have heard the same story over and over and over again. I've heard the same narrative over and over and over again. People are essentially not that unique in the way that we experience pain and the pain that we're in and the things that actually help us feel better. So I understand that a lot of the time it can feel like we're very alone in our pain and we're very alone in our experience of what we're going through. And I agree that we are all unique and that we all have our unique experience and our unique set of circumstances and our unique vantage point. But at the same time, and at the same time, we are human beings who all have a base function. We all have a base system, a base way that we are, with things that work for us and things that don't work for us. And as a humanity, we are generally speaking living in ways that don't work for any of us. So, like in the last video that I made, we were talking about how there is absolutely such a thing as some people on this planet being manipulated and being taken advantage of, and that it doesn't matter how much these people empower themselves within the system until they demand that the system changes. They are going to suffer. They're going to be in pain because it is the system itself that is causing them the pain, that the system itself is set up to be antagonistic to their growth. It is set up to be antagonistic to their capacity to thrive as human beings, to get their needs met. That there's only so far you can go within that system before you say, okay, the next step to feeling better is getting out of the system, making a new system. And this is the same thing as all suffering on the planet for all humans, and essentially what waking up out of the matrix is. So, first things first, why do we get stuck in pain and why do we get stuck in spiritual bypassing? So, that's what I'm going to talk about first. Why do we get stuck in pain? Why is it that so many people who are on a spiritual path, who are on an awakening path, who are doing their work, right? We're not even talking about like normal people who we can see that they're just working their job and they're drinking and they're watching TV and they're eating and they're kind of like just doing their daily dramas over and over again. Like we can kind of understand why those people would not necessarily heal. But what about the spiritual people? What about the self-help people? What about the personal growth people? These people that probably everyone who's watching this video surround themselves with or are. Why is it that we do all this work? We seemingly make all these sacrifices, right? Like this I can understand why so much of the regular world can look at spiritual people who are like, to the regular perspective, not watching TV, so withholding themselves from that pleasure. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't eat junk food, so they eat healthy. They get up in the morning and exercise. They're like doing all these things that are disciplines, where they're like not participating in the things that make normal people happy. Right? They're sacrificing stuff in order to do these things that are harder, like sitting with their emotions and meditating and exercising and eating healthy and all these things. And then it doesn't look like they're any happier or any freer than the average person. And in a lot of ways, I think spiritual people can often look like we're less happy and we're less free and we're having a worse time. And it can really look like, what the hell? Like, why would you bother with that? Like, you're not happy. We're not actually free. And so we're either seeing that, we're just like people who are just like constantly stuck in pain, like constantly going on the next ayahuasca trip, doing the next healing session, doing the next self-improvement seminar, reading the next book, doing the next technique, because it's just, it seems that no matter what we do, no matter what we try, it's not enough. We don't feel free. We don't feel happy. We don't actually solve our problems. Like, that's the other big thing. Like, we have our pain and our coping mechanisms and our self-sabotage and our things that we do that we're trying to fix about ourselves. We have our negative emotions. We have our inappropriate ways we act in relationships. We have all these things. And we're constantly doing the work on ourselves to fix it. And we can't fix it. We can fix it for a little while. We white knuckle. We have a session, or we do a retreat, or we do whatever it is, and we take ourselves out of our normal routine, and we have some real nervous system overwhelmed shock, and then we can come back and we're like all charged up to just like live our positive life and do it all great, and then we fall back in line. Or, like I say, we get stuck in spiritual bypassing. We just go to the other side of just like, well, it's not real. None of this is real. It's all an illusion. Anytime we're in pain, we just write it off as like, I'm observing this part of myself as though it's somewhere over here, and I'm not really attached to that because that's my ego, and I can see my real self doesn't actually. But at the end of the day, you still feel shitty, right? You're telling yourselves all these stories and you're intellectualizing it and you're doing all these spiritual gymnastics, but at the end of the day, you still feel it, and you're still acting like that person. Like, at the end of the day, you still take action like that person. You still shut down in relationship. You still overeat. You still drink. You still do the things that spirituality is trying to help you not do, but you come up with some reason why it's different. And it's not that this time. Or, right, we go to these workshops and we get ourselves all amped up on positive thinking and positive mindset, and we can do it, and rah, 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 and I walked over fire, and I did this meditation about my heart center, and I'm like so in love now, and I'm like completely there, and I'm yes, 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 and then you go home and you completely crash, and you're like, what's wrong with me that I can't hold on to this, right? And we're constantly doing these techniques and whipping ourselves into these frenzies, and then, like I say, crashing, and it doesn't actually change our lives, and we end up still in the shitty relationship, still freaking out about money, still same drama in our lives over and over again. We're not healing. We're not actually getting anywhere. We're doing all these things. We're white knuckling it for a little while. We're acting like we're different. And then we fall back to what we've always done. And sometimes worse. A lot of the time after we do these things, we go on the plant medicine journey, we do whatever, we feel like we had a breakthrough, we feel like we had a revelation, like we got it. When really we just like completely traumatized our nervous systems. We flooded ourselves with all of this awareness and information, and essentially got like spiritually drunk. Like, if you really want to look at it that way, like you got high, and that's not processing. That's not doing the work. That's taking you out of your body. That's taking you out of your experience that you're actually in, trying to catapult yourself to some other place. And you're always going to get slingshot back to where you actually are, to where the traumatized parts of you are. Because of course, that's where you actually are. So why does that happen? Why do we never seem to actually heal? And it's because this, number one, the first and most important thing we have to understand about the spirituality and the self-help world that make them completely irrelevant to actually healing is that they're founded on the foundational premise that is completely out of alignment with reality. Everything that most of everyone who's listening to this calls their spiritual work, their personal growth, their self-improvement, it's founded on this premise. And this premise is a lie. So this is why it never goes anywhere. It feels like it goes somewhere. It sometimes gives us a little thing. Sometimes by accident we get the real message. But generally speaking, it goes nowhere because it's founded on a lie. And that lie is that there's something wrong with you. That your anxiety, your depression, you're too sensitive. Okay, listen. Your eating disorder, your addiction, your overspending, your constantly numbing out, your crazy relationships, the fact that you can't get your life together, the fact that you have negative thoughts, negative emotions, a negative view of the world, the fact that you're afraid all the time, whatever it is that you're going to spirituality and self-help and personal growth for, you can't find your purpose, you don't know what you're supposed to be doing here, you feel lost, you feel hopeless, you're addicted to approval, you're addicted to love, you're finding love in all the wrong places, all of these things. Spirituality, personal growth, self-help says, those are the things that are wrong with you. And here, we will help you fix them. That is not reality. Okay? Like, period, end of story. The reason it doesn't work is because it's founded on that premise that these are the things that are wrong with you. These are the things that are wrong with you. And if you just didn't have these things, if we could just get rid of your anxiety, if we could just get rid of your depression, if we could just get rid of your eating disorder, if we could just get rid of your addiction, if we could just get rid of your negative mindset, if we could just get rid of your whatever it is that we've diagnosed you with, you would be able to live a successful life like everybody else. Okay, no. Because first things first, what is the fake matrix that we're in? The fake matrix that we're frickin' in is the normal life like everybody else. So if your spirituality, your self-help, your personal growth is trying to help you have success within that system, it is not spirituality. It is not self-help. It is not personal growth. It is, we are going to try to find some techniques to numb your sensory system that is telling you the system is fucked up. That's what's happening. Your anxiety, your depression, your addictions, your I can't get my shit together. All these parts of you that sabotage you every time you try and get in this relationship or get in that job or do this or do that. The parts of you that are just constantly in pain no matter what you do. The parts of you that you have been told your whole life are too sensitive are the parts of you that were not conditioned, that couldn't be conditioned. Because we all have what Martha Beck calls an essential self, or any spiritual path will call your soul. This part of you that is your higher awareness. And it's like literally, it doesn't matter. Even if you're completely atheist, you can look at that as like your pure physical body, like animals that have instinct, that just can't do certain things that hurt them, pain and pleasure. Okay, so again, we can literally look at it as your body, literally just your body, that's aware of pain and pleasure. This is destroying me, this is not destroying me. This feels good because it's evolution. This feels bad because it's self-destruction. It's literally that, or you can call it God, whatever you want to call it. Anything in between, higher awareness, soul, what. there's a part of you that can't be convinced logically that something that is true isn't true, and something that isn't true is true. And again, what is reality? Okay, again, real reality has nothing to do with human opinion. Okay, so for instance, real reality is, you can boil it down to this: that which creates evolution feels good, that which creates devolution feels bad. Whatever is working with the structure of you and reality, working within the structure that exists, so therefore not destroying the structure, feels good. Anything that goes against the structure, where you are breaking yourself against the structure, feels bad. That's reality. That's it. And reality doesn't change for anybody. Reality doesn't change. So for instance, I once had a person say to me, you know, there was a time when meat and dairy was good for us, and now we all decided that meat and dairy is bad for us, and now we all have health conditions because we eat meat and dairy. No. Reality didn't change. Number one, meat and dairy always caused heart disease. Always caused issues in the human body when overconsumed. That's just how it's always been. There were times and places where we didn't have the medical devices and the medical understanding to know that's what was happening, but that doesn't mean that wasn't happening, right? Just because we all of a sudden became aware of something, aware of how to measure something, aware of how to observe something, doesn't mean it wasn't happening until we started observing it. The phenomenon was always there. People were dying from heart attacks. Okay, second thing, meat and dairy wasn't always what meat and dairy is. It wasn't always factory farmed, mass consumed, all of these things that it is now. Things changed, but reality didn't change. Cause and effect doesn't change. So again, it doesn't matter how much we as a society agree and believe that if we jump off a cliff and flap our arms like a bird, we will fly. We could all collectively, 7 billion of us, almost 8 billion of us now, decide that that's true. We could all decide that that's true, that that's reality. And no, every single time we jumped off a cliff and flapped our arms, we would fall to the ground. Because that's reality. It doesn't change itself for human opinion. Sometimes human opinion and reality are the same. Most of the time, human opinion and reality are different. So, and then this harkens back to, well, then why don't we live in alignment with reality? If it's so simple, Allie, if it's just pain and pleasure, and if I'm in alignment with reality, I feel good, and I'm out of alignment with reality, I feel bad, why are we so confused? Why is there so much matrix? Why is there so much, we don't know what the answer is? We don't know what reality is. We're not sure what to do. Well, childhood trauma. Because again, in our childhoods, from 0 to 7, we have no capacity to understand our own needs, to understand how the world works so we can get our needs met. We don't understand our own pain. We don't know how to learn from reality, from pain and pleasure. Instead, we have caregivers who are an intermediary for us in reality. And this is a huge, huge, huge thing that we have to acknowledge. Our very first relationships between infant and caregiver, child and caregiver, was a codependent relationship. Our very first relationships, how we learned about relationships, was through codependency first. Because what caregivers did for us was intercede. They were in between us and reality. Because if they weren't, no human being would survive. Because in reality, you have pain, it's because a need is not being met, or there's something antagonistic to your survival happening to you. And in real reality, the solution to that is meeting your need So understanding what your need is and then getting it met so that you don't die, so that you can keep growing, or figuring out what that antagonistic thing is and ending that antagonistic thing. So as a little baby, when you're hungry, you don't know that the pain you're feeling in your body means hunger, because you require nutrition to grow. And if you don't get food, and the very specific correct food, if you don't get breast milk with the specific amount of nutrients that breast milk has, in order to grow your body right now in the correct amount, at the correct time, there's something then antagonistic to your growth. You don't understand that. You don't know where food comes from. You don't even know what eating is. All you know is pain. So what do? You cry out. You squirm. You cry. You have a natural reaction to pain. So then caregiver comes and feeds you. And so all you know is pain went away. Good. I feel good. That's a codependent relationship. Because what you did was you had a reality reaction, pain. But you then didn't figure out it's because I'm hungry. Food is the answer. Here's how I get food. Here's what the best food is. Here's how to get that food into my body. That's a connection with real reality. This is the pain. Where's the pain coming from? What do I need to do to remedy the pain? Actually doing that thing in real life. What you did was squirm, and then caregiver solved the problem for you. That's codependency. You see, you didn't go to reality. You didn't go to food to meet your need. You alerted a person, and then a person met your need. That's codependency. So now as adults, right, when we talk about a codependent relationship, it's I need this thing, so I'm going to behave in some sort of way that pleases you so that you do this thing for me. You meet my need. I'm not going directly to reality to get my need for security or love or companionship or understanding or provision met. I'm behaving in some way that causes you to meet that need for me. And then most of the time, I'm not even aware of that. I'm not asking for it. I just expect you that when I behave like this, you meet this need. Codependency. Where did we learn that? Infancy, childhood, because that's what it was. It was our behavior towards other people that then, then we were dependent upon caregivers to understand our needs, to understand our wants, to understand what was going on with us in order to meet our needs. And then if we got in trouble, right? If we got, when we bumped up against stuff we didn't know, most of us never learned how to learn from that. When we climbed up on top of something and then didn't know how to get down, most of the time our caregivers didn't help us get down. They didn't lead us to problem solve. They rescued us or they yelled at us. So now we have shame and guilt attached to not knowing. We have shame and guilt and fear attached to not knowing because we've never learned that when I run into a problem, I can solve it. That, yeah, I was in pain, I was scared, right? I'm up there and I don't know how to get down, fear. But if I relax, I can figure out how to get down. Okay, so Laura says, do you think a lot of the reason for this collective trauma is that people have kids for the wrong reasons, not going into it with the mindset of facilitating a child's unique development? Yeah, but it's more that we're all traumatized. None of us know how to learn. How can you teach your kids something you don't know? How can you hand them something you don't have? How can you not traumatize them when you're traumatized? And this is what I'm trying to say. Everyone in the matrix, everyone in society is traumatized. And we can tell that we're traumatized because we have the same problems over and over and over again and we can't fix them. And it doesn't matter how high up you get in the system of society. From the most bottom of bottom people who have nothing to the most top billionaires in America, the kings and queens and the monarchy over there. It's all the same shit. Right? How many more celebrities do we have to see kill themselves? How many more people do we have to see that by the time they get to the top of the system, they're so corrupted? They're so, what a lot of people call evil. They're so messed up. They're so broken. They're so power hungry. They're so just out for themselves. Like literally complete zombies disconnected from their humanity. That they can do the kinds of things that they do. What does that tell us about the system? That in order to be a success in this system, you have to be completely cut off from your humanity. You have to be completely cut off from your feelings. You have to be completely zombified. You have to be numbing yourself, drugging yourself, sex, drugs, and rock and roll to keep yourself going, to stimulate yourself, and eventually you kill yourself. Or you get in some sort of sexual thing, or we end up in these situations where we're harming ourselves and we're harming others in order to be there, right? Like we're looking at these people who are at the top and we're like, you're evil, you're bad, no. They are the most traumatized among us. That in order to successfully navigate this system, you have to be the most traumatized kind of person. Because again, a person who can look someone in the eye and lie straight to them, the kind of person that can do sexual things to a child, the kind of person that can condone the knowing murder, the knowing just like war, like a person who can literally send people to go die. The kind of person that can do that. Like, just think about what kind of soul death you have to have gone through in your life to be the kind of person who can do that. Right? If you are at the place where you have the capacity to do what these people who are in charge do every day, you are so deeply traumatized, so deeply disconnected, so deeply out of sync with reality. Like, that is trauma. You are traumatized. And everybody who is in any position of power, we can easily say, are the most traumatized among us. If we just step back and stop blaming them and judging them and calling them evil and all these things, and we just say, no, look at their behavior. That's the behavior of somebody who is deeply, deeply traumatized. If a small child was doing that, if a small child is harming other children, is harming animals, is doing... I think we're at the point now that humanity is like, something must be terribly going wrong with that child. As in, that child must be experiencing something deeply traumatizing. What's going on in the home? What's going on with the caregivers? There's not something wrong with the kid. The kid is reacting to something. When children are disturbed like that, they're disturbed. They're reacting to a disturbing environment. It's the exact same thing with humans. And we don't see it, and we don't get it, because normal is so normal. Because we think normal is good. And, right, how many more of these frickin' bloggers and vloggers and people who are posturing themselves as having these so put together, so amazing, so awesome lives, these spiritual people, these self-help gurus or whatever, and then we find out they're crippled with anxiety all the time. They are addicted to something. They're involved in some sort of sexual misconduct. They're abusing people. They're covertly abusing in the feminine way, where they're like just messes in their lives and they expect their spouses to clean up after them, and isn't it so cute and funny that I like leave my chewed gum on your cup? Like, they're gross, narcissistic, the world revolves around me and I shouldn't have to do anything. Or they're overtly like abusive. And we look at these people and we're like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? Like, especially people in power, who then we find out they're like drug rings or sex or whatever they're doing. And we're like, you're in a position where everyone was going to figure out that you were doing that. Why would you do that? Like it seems so self-destructive. And it's because it is. Their guidance system, their humanity was self-destructing them. So Lord says it's not uncommon for people to have kids because that's just what you do, and not understand that they're not just cute pets. Totally. But again, right, like that's a symptom of a much deeper problem. That we're disconnected from ourselves. We're not moving from a space of reality. We're so disconnected from reality itself. So like I say, the system, the matrix, everything is commoditized. Just the bottom line, right? The bottom line of our society. There's something wrong with you if you can't make this work. Your negative emotions, your addictions, your fears, your everything that you do that makes it so that you can't get your shit together, or is the way you cope with having your shit together, right? How many people do we know that have the job, have the relationship, have the kids, have the house, have the lawn, and they're miserable, they're crazy, they're addicted, they're eating disorder, they're constantly anxious, constantly depressed, they're on medication, they're doing everything right, they're just living a normal life, and they're depressed out of their freaking minds. They're lonely, they're sad all the time. It doesn't matter what they accomplish, it's never good enough. They feel empty inside. It doesn't matter how many friends they have or how many social events. They constantly come back to this, I feel nothing. I feel numb. I feel dead. This isn't worth it. Or, like I say, they need alcohol. They need pot. They need to constantly be having people around them. They're workaholics. They're working themselves to the bone. They literally destroy their own bodies, their relationships, whatever. All they care about is money. It's like, think about that. These foundations of our society are what's wrong with us. We are reacting to that. Your anxiety is a reaction to the trauma you have faced. Your depression is a reaction. Your coping mechanisms, so your addictions, your eating disorders, your things that you binge watch TV, you drink, you smoke, even an addiction to self-help and self-improvement and plant medicine and these meditation retreats. You have to go on a Vipassana every 4 months to like get a recharge. It's addiction. You can't just be okay in your life. Why? You can't just sit still and be okay. Why? Because you're reacting. Okay, so this is the thing. This is what the matrix is. The false matrix, based on humans need to commoditize themselves. Everything is a commodity. And if you can't make it work, there's something wrong with you. The system is right. The system is good. And this is why we never wake up. Okay? Because all of us willingly buy this to some degree. That there's something just wrong with me. That my coping mechanism is the thing that's wrong with me. My anxiety is something that's wrong with me. My depression is something that's wrong with me. Because it's stopping me from being able to be successful in the system. It's stopping me from being able to have the job, to have the relationship, to live in the house, to get the things I'm supposed to get, to do the things I'm supposed to do, to make the money. It's stopping me from all this stuff, so it must be bad. Because we're fundamentally assuming that getting the job, getting the house, getting the relationship, getting the money is good. right? We're fundamentally assuming that the water we're all swimming in is fresh and clean. And we're looking for the shark. What is it that's hurting me? Because we don't get it. The water is poison. It's the water. There is no shark. Maybe there is a shark. But at the end of the day, the shark is not the threat. The threat is the water. We're in poisoned water. This system relies upon trauma. Period. End of story. The system is designed on trauma. It was invented by traumatized people who did not understand how reality worked. We didn't understand how to get ourselves out of the food chain. We didn't understand how to work together. We didn't understand how to get enough to support ourselves. The drumbeat of not enough. The drumbeat of not enough. This fear of death. Right? We're trying to protect ourselves from death. That's where it all comes down to. Right? We're trying to protect ourselves from dying of exposure, not having enough food, not having enough water. These were the traumas of humanity. So how does it get fixed? I'll tell you. And it's not easy. The reason no one ever does the fix is because the fix is so much scarier than just staying in the matrix. This is why everyone stays in it. And we figure out some spiritual bypassy way of making the matrix work. Right? So many of our spiritual teachers. I'll teach you the tapping technique to get rid of your anxiety. I'll teach you the meditation technique to get rid of your depression. I'll teach you that heart space meditation so that you're all fucking jacked on your positivity and you can go out there and like love your husband and have your great job and just like get your life. I'm going to teach you how to break your broken brain, fix your broken brain where you're just like constantly hating yourself. So you can have that positive mindset and you can go and get that CEO job and you can go get your money and you can go. Right? No. That is complete matrix bullshit. Because it is that system, the commoditization of the human being, that you are here to live up to some sort of societal standard of productivity. Productivity. You need to be rich. You need to have all this stuff, right? You're not successful until you have the car and the house and the over-consuming lifestyle. This ridiculous lifestyle that we would need 8 different planets for all of us to have enough for that kind of lifestyle. To be so caught up in your work and caught up in your purpose and doing all this stuff that you can't feel your humanity. You don't spend time on art. You don't read. You don't have time to notice that my needing to have so much more than I actually need means that 3/4 of the planet doesn't have enough. We're completely whitewashed into like, I'm not going to pay attention to how my lifestyle is affecting the planet, the entire planet. Every human being who doesn't have what they need is partially because Canada and America and the United States and our view of success necessitates that people don't have what they need. We're learning now in the States, like, whoa, the people at the top require that a whole bunch of people stay in positions of poverty to stay where they are. They don't want a new system, because a new system would mean giving up something that they have to make room for others to have enough. Because when you wake up from the matrix, that's what you're going to realize. What we're doing as human beings is completely unsustainable. We are not going to survive ourselves doing this. You have to be shut down from your humanity, from your feelings, to try to make that system work. Why do we all crash? No matter how positive we whip ourselves into a frenzy about, how positively focused we are, how abundance mindset we are. Why do we all crash? Because reality comes back and says, no, this feels terrible. I don't need the 8-bedroom house. I don't need the car. I don't need all this stuff. It doesn't work for the planet. It doesn't work for all the other human beings. That's not what abundance is. That's not what abundance is. Right? And it's this constant, you will feel fulfilled. You will feel better. You will feel your sense of purpose. You will feel your sense of who you really are. You will feel your sense of truth. You will feel your sense of people loving you and acceptance and like you're good enough when you finally get to something in the system. And it doesn't matter how many goals you reach, how high you get. It doesn't mean anything. You're not happy. You're not fulfilled. There's constantly something out there because it's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. It's the system that's poison. Okay? So what do we want to do here? What's the solution? It's the thing I've been saying from the moment I started teaching. Radical self-love. Why? Okay, and what do I mean by self-love? This. Radical self-love says, my anxiety, my depression, my coping mechanisms, my negative thoughts, my pain, my physical traumas, my physical pain, everything that hurts in my life is a message to me that something that I'm doing doesn't align with how reality works. I'm not broken. Okay? So again, think of it like this. If you put your hand on a burner and it hurts, do you go, oh man, my hand's broken. It's hurting. There's something wrong with my hand. What should I do to fix my hand? This stupid hand. No. We can understand it in this context. We say, ow, take my hand off. The burner was hurting my hand. If I didn't have pain and I left my hand there, if I didn't have pain to alert me that the burner is hot and that hot burner destroys my tissues, so if I leave it on there, I'm going to literally burn my hand off. Thank God for pain, because it alerted me that the burner is antagonistic to my hand. Okay? Another example, when we're hungry, we don't go, oh man, what's wrong with my body that it hurts in my stomach right now? If we understand that it's hunger. We go, oh good, my body is telling me I need to eat something. And if it didn't, think about that. If we didn't have the pain signal of hunger, we would all starve to death. Right? We're wrapped up in what we're doing something else. We go like days without eating because we're all, and then big problem. If we didn't have the physical biological mechanism that says you're hungry, you got to eat something, most of us would die. Thank God for pain. So we can understand it in this way, right? Hopefully we can understand that. Pain is happening because something is antagonistic, or we have a need that's not being met. Pain is happening because there's something antagonistic to our growth, or we have a need that's not being met. And most of us, we don't want to figure out what that antagonistic thing is or what the need is because we're traumatized, number one, right? So many of us have been told, you're not allowed to want that, you're not allowed to need that, you're not allowed to be that, you're not allowed to do that. As we were growing up in our codependent relationship with our parents, which was codependent for a reason because we needed it, but they taught us, these are the behaviors that are okay, these are the behaviors that are not. And you learned through your nervous system, I am dependent upon these people for all of my needs being met. So if they don't approve of my behavior, which is the only way I convince them to meet my needs. Do you see what I'm saying here? Again, we didn't understand our own needs as children. We only knew pain and pleasure. We only knew I want to express this or I don't want to express this. This feels good to me, this doesn't feel good to me. So that's what we were doing. And so this expression of pain was how we alerted our caregivers to meet our needs. And if they didn't understand us, if they didn't understand that, we got stuck in pain. Not having the understanding of someone around us equaled we're stuck in pain now. Do you recognize that in your life now? Feeling like if someone doesn't understand you, you're not okay? You can't be okay? It's a big emergency if people don't understand your point of view? Do you see where that might have come from? Second thing, it was your behavior that either pleased or displeased your parents, that made you feel safe. Because if they were approving of you, there was a higher chance they would meet your need. They would be attentive to you. They would help regulate. They would be attuned to your needs, attuned to you as a human being. They could emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally regulate you. When they were disapproving of you, there was less of a chance that was going to happen. And then you were out on your own, and you were not capable of meeting your own needs. So now again, do you recognize this in your current reality? I am working so hard to get these people to approve of me, and it feels like I'm going to die when the world doesn't approve of me. Because these people in your mind, these are the people that meet these unconscious needs I don't even know I have. I'm so afraid of losing this person and this person and this person and this person because they fill things for me that I don't know how to fill for myself. I'm not aware. You see? So what this is that we are all still trapped in the childlike perspective that out there is the source of my needs and the source of everything and the answers for what is and isn't okay. And my behavior is the thing that determines whether I get my needs met or not, based on the approval and opinions of other human beings. That's the fake matrix. The reality is, as an adult, I need to start to figure out what pain is telling me. My anxiety, my depression, my coping mechanisms, why does life hurt? And maybe society doesn't have it figured out. Maybe the way everything that I think is normal and the way that it should be, and there's just something wrong with me that I can't make it work. What if it's the opposite of that? Radical self-love. What if all the things that hurt when I try and do them is because they are wrong? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. When I was in school, I was an excellent student. I was a straight A student. I didn't even have to study that hard. I could just focus, get that information in, get it out, move on. Social studies or history. Literally, whenever we were learning about Canadian history, it was like a fog would descend upon me. And I would just not be able to pay attention. I would be working so hard to take the information in. And we'd be watching these movies about the French fighting the English and all this stuff. And this incredibly whitewashed version of Canadian history that had nothing to do, no mention of the native Canadians they all killed and enslaved. No mention of the ridiculous things that actually happened in Canadian history. This completely it was just the French versus the English, and they all just decided the French will take this half and the English will take that half, and that's what happened. And my brain and my body would just shut down. And I would think what's wrong with me? Why can't I pay attention to this? It doesn't matter how hard I try. My brain and my body will not take it in. Now, I realize it's because it was a lie. My physical body literally was well, no, it's wrong. It's a lie. It's not real. I thought there was something wrong with me that I would numb out. When in reality, that was my emotional guidance system being wrong, not real, can't take it in. Do you see? So what is the solution? Radical self-love. When you start to think to yourself, I'm in pain, what is this pain trying to tell me? What's off in my environment? What are the stories I'm telling myself that aren't true? Because this is the other thing. Pain can absolutely be rooted in an illusion, in the sense that we may have a belief about ourselves that I cannot be this way, I cannot do this thing, and if I am this way, it means that I'm bad and horrible. So every time we try to do that behavior, we hate ourselves. And the pain, right? We think, yeah, totally. We think, I am this way, I get rejected, that's why it hurts, that's why I'm in pain. So it's true that this thing is bad about me. No. If we stop making it about what hurts because I get rejected by other humans because of it, what feels good because I get accepted by other humans about it, that's consensus reality, pain and pleasure, right? That's codependent pain and pleasure. Still believing that provision comes from the outside, my needs met comes from the outside, the answers to what is right and wrong comes from the outside. This is the main thing. This is why none of us want to do this work and none of us want to wake up. Because when you really start to wake up, what you're going to start to recognize is that so many things that feel terrible to you are what the world is saying is right. And so many things that feel amazing to you get you rejected and the world thinks is wrong. And then you have to go, oh shit, who's right? And first thing that you're going to notice is you're not even going to know what feels good and what is right. You're just going to have an awareness of all these things that feel terrible, right? You're going to be like, well, I feel anxiety when I want to go to my job. I feel anxiety in my relationship. I feel anxiety with this. I feel anxiety with that. So all of it's wrong. What am I supposed to do? It must just be that there's something wrong with me. That's so much easier. Do you see? If we believe there's something wrong with us, then that means we know what the answer to a happy life is. Right? We have it figured out. It's the job, it's the relationship, it's this thing that's missing. It's this thing that if I could just get myself to stop being this way, I'd have it and then it would be great. Simple. If the reality is, I'm right, my feelings are telling me this isn't it, that is way harder. Because then you have to figure out what reality is. And you have to create it for yourself. And you have to face the rejection of everyone else who doesn't understand, who is going to fight against you. Because you doing something different challenges them and their beliefs about what is right and wrong and what is the true reality. You see? We all need each other to keep agreeing that what we're doing is right. And so when one person steps out, this is why everyone attacks them. This is why everyone looks for every little nitpicky thing that's not perfect about them to prove that there's no point in doing it something different because it's not even better. It's not perfect. So just fuck that. Do you see? We're so afraid of admitting that maybe what we have isn't right. Because that's what radical self-love does. Radical self-love says, okay, if it hurts, it's wrong. And then we start to recognize that everything hurts. Oh God, everything's wrong? So what do? What's the answer? Yeah. What we do and what the answer is, slowly, one little bit at a time, we love ourselves safe. And that is why this is the foundation that I teach. And that is why self-love is the one teaching that transcends color, creed, socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter. There is 0 people on the planet who this does not apply to. You need to start to accept yourself, meaning everything that you're in pain, every place that you're in pain, every place that you're traumatized, every place that you're hurting, every place that you're rejecting yourself, every place where you've been told you're not allowed to be this way, you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. You start to go in and say, no. I am going to take a stand against the false matrix, that there's something wrong with me. Because there isn't. There isn't anything wrong with any of us. The top of the top, who are doing the worst things on the planet, to the bottom of the bottom, no one is broken. No one has something wrong with them. They have been traumatized. They have been taught that they need to live within a system that is antagonistic to their survival. to their soul survival, their true self. How we are living is antagonistic to our survival. And I think anyone who's even a modicum of awake can see that. Our consumerism, our numbness, our disconnection from each other, our disconnection from our bodies, the way that we eat, the way that we talk, the way that we live, the way we fucking sit all day in front of screens. We are antagonistic to our own survival. And then we're like, why are we crazy? Why are we in pain? Why are we destroying each other? Because we're traumatized. Because we've been taught that that is the way it's supposed to be. So if I can't make that work, there's something wrong with me. I'm too sensitive. I'm too anxious. I'm too nervous. I'm too depressed. I'm not accomplished enough. We have to break out of this. If we want a real world, we need to face the existential crisis that humanity does not have it figured out. And that it's going to be slow, incremental steps of listening to ourselves to get out of this. Slowly saying, okay, if there's nothing wrong with me, what is my anxiety telling me that it doesn't want to do? Because this is the thing, we're all going to recognize eventually that we have all the answers. Our bodies have been telling us from the very beginning, I didn't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to do this thing. This thought hurts every time I think it. This thought hurts every time I think it. This thing I believe about myself, because this is what other people told me about me, hurts. Not because it's true, but because it's not true. And yes, I get rejected when I am this way. I get told I shouldn't be this way. I've been told these are bad parts of me. It's wrong. And all the self-destructive parts, all the chaotic parts, all of the things that we think are wrong with us are coping. That's the only way you're surviving. If you're, go with your gut. Your brain is going to disagree. Your brain has been conditioned. If your brain and your gut disagree, your brain is conditioned. Your brain will believe anything. It's the manager. It doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't know the difference between truth and lie. It's the imaginatron that can create things that haven't existed yet. So it can't have any reality check. The body is where reality is. So if your spiritual practices are not taking you into your body to feel what you are actually feeling, so that your mind can then sort through what that means and then do that in real reality, you're not doing a spiritual practice. If your spiritual practices are telling you to ignore what you feel here, to do this logical thing, they are not spiritual practices. If your spiritual practices are not taking you into your pain, to say, can you love it? Can you acknowledge it? Can you validate it? What is that pain trying to tell you about what you are and what you aren't? That contradicts your conditioning. It's not a spiritual practice. It's the matrix. Your brain has been conditioned. But that's what it does. It's the manager. It just takes the information and how do I make that a real thing? So if you're operating from false information, you're breaking yourself against the system. And your body will tell you every time. When you start to actually connect with your body, you're just going to get a bunch of answers you didn't want to get. You're just going to get a bunch of answers you didn't want to get, that you knew the whole time. So that's the sermon for today. There's nothing wrong with you. Do your self-love practices and understand it's going to destroy your life in the best way possible. It's going to make it impossible for you to continue to live in the way that the Matrix has taught you to live. And it's going to be little incremental changes over time. Little incremented changes over time. We plunge into the unknown without a plan. That's not really what it is. You're going to go in, you're going to feel, you're going to feel, you're going to feel, you're going to get a little instinct to do just this. It's just that you won't have the whole vision. You'll have just enough for the next step. And we have to be okay with that. One step at a time. One step at a time. Feel until you get a little hit, a little information, and then do that. And then let your nervous system adjust to that, because it's going to be scared, and there's going to be trauma around doing that. So watch my nervous system videos. Okay? Little step at a time. Little step at a time. Feel. What if your feelings aren't wrong? That's the answer. Okay? So enjoy your week. There's nothing wrong with you. You're traumatized. You're not broken. I love you.